Hello, and welcome to Health and Fitness Redefined. I'm your host, Anthony Amen. Join me today as we take a dive into the world of health and fitness, where we learn to overcome adversity, pick that position, and see health and fitness in a whole new light. Today, guys, that's right. We usually talk about gals. We've done a lot of episodes, pre, postnatal, all that fun stuff. So let's do an episode for the guys. Let's figure out how to work that mindset and get you back into the gym. So for today's guest, I'd like to welcome to the show Patrick Tromley. I hope I pronounced the last very right, but Patrick, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure, man. Did I get the last name right, Tromley?
Yeah, you nailed it. You nailed it, Tromley. That's it.
Nice. Awesome. So before we get into the show, I just want you to tell my listeners a little bit about yourself and how you got into the fitness realm.
Sure. So I started my career back in 2006, but it was in the real estate industry in the mortgage lending, and went through the 2008 financial crisis, collapse, mortgage meltdown, whatever you want to call it, all that craziness. And the bank that I was working at got shut down by the Fed. So I had to go find another place of employment and went to a second bank. And about 18 months after that, that one got shut down by the Feds. FDIC knocked down the doors and told everybody to get away from their computers, kind of like TV style stuff. So that was a little crazy. But after that point, I really wanted to take control of my career, my life. I was married, had one son at the time. Second son was on the way. And so I went into the investing side of the real estate industry. And I've been doing that on and off now for 5 years or so. And as part of that, I got into self development and I hired a mentor to speed the process along, compress time, to help me get better faster. And through that process and working with the mentor who I still work with today, he shifted my mindset. When I was in lending, when I was in the real estate industry, I was always chasing that dollar, always going after the money, the next check, the next deal. And it never was enough, right? You make a lot of money, but then you still wanted more. And so it was really this insatiable appetite for the next deal. And that gets tiring, it's unfulfilling. So my mentor ended up shifting my mindset from chasing the bag to being in alignment with your purpose. Listen to your conscience, what your conscience is telling you, and aligning your thoughts and actions with that. Because to me, the conscience is the authentic voice of our creator. And to me, that is God. So when you're disobeying your conscience or not listening to your conscience, to me, that means I'm not listening to what God is telling me to do. So I had that mindset shift to align my thoughts and actions with what my conscience was telling me. And when I did that, that switched everything. I was in alignment. And mind you, the whole time I've been lifting weights and training and trying to get, as huge and big as I could. And I was eating shit and just throwing everything in my face that I could, in and out a couple times a week, just not really paying attention to the nutrition side of it. And so my mentor also had a training, and part of that mindset program was training in macro manipulation and some fasting techniques. So I really dialed in the end of last year, about end of November of last year, dialed in on the macros, dialed in on the training, started to build some discipline, wasn't really just shoveling in as much food as I wanted or could. And I really started to see a shift. My discipline was getting stronger, my mindset was getting stronger, and in turn, I was dropping pounds. So in 4 months, I dropped 25 pounds. I'm in the best shape I've ever been in. I'm under 10% body fat, but all that is just a reflection of my mindset, right? For me, the external view or the external appearance is the reflection of the internal state. So when I was a mess in the head, you could see it. I was getting squishy. I had love handles, a little gut, little man boobs starting to grow here and there, and it wasn't pretty. So that is me in a nutshell. Now I'm here, and because I went through that experience and the power that it had in my life, and really helping me fulfill my roles and responsibilities as a husband, a father, leader of a family, I've become a better dad. I've become a better husband, and really I've just become a better individual. And that feeling that I have now of being in alignment with my purpose and doing everything that I know I'm supposed to do when it's supposed to be done is like nothing else. And because of that, I went into the coaching realm to help others achieve that same feeling. And really, that's it. That's how I got there. And now what I do is I leverage nutrition, I leverage Stoic principles and the training to help my clients build their mindsets.
Yeah, and I just want to point out, and I think this is a good place to start, is why guys and not girls or everyone?
Why guys and not girls? Well, really for me, it's I'm speaking on my experience, right? And what worked for me and what changed my mindset. And so my experience in this life is as a man. So that's why I speak to it. But really the principles apply to anybody, right? They apply to both sexes. Both men and women have roles and responsibilities. Some are overlap, some are different. But we all need to eat, we all need to train, we all need a strong mindset. So the principles can be applied to both males and females. It's just you're going to have different roles and responsibilities, right? But you still need to execute those at the highest level so that the other party doesn't have to take over or do some of your job because you have abdicated that and chosen to be selfish or chosen to be lazy or whatever it might be. You still need to pull your weight. And that goes for both sexes.
Yeah, and I think that's a good important distinction, the roles and responsibilities for the different sexes and the kind of things we go through as being different. I mean, we are totally different. So I've done a lot of shows helping out the females, things that guys will never go through: pregnancy, postpartum, getting ready to
Mhm.
get pregnant, being a mom. And I feel like the guys just kind of get left out because they're like, well, Anthony, I'm never having a kid. Like personally, I'll
Right.
have one, but it's not going to be inside of me growing for 9 months. So I want to really focus around them. And that's something we both have experience with. I'm not a dad, but you are. We're both married and we both work with a lot of individuals in that realm.
Sure.
So let's start with, what are the common pitfalls that most men fall into when it comes to mindset?
Well, I think a lot of them don't trust themselves, right? They don't have belief in themselves because they've consistently let themselves down. And so by doing that, they program their subconscious mind to really tell themselves that they're not shit, right? Like you say you're going to do something, you're going to start working out, right? Monday morning, I'm going to hit the gym 5 o'clock and I'm not going to miss for a year. Well, Monday morning rolls around, the alarm clock goes off at 4:30 so you can get up in time and you hit snooze. And you hit snooze and you hit snooze. The next thing you know, it's 5:30 and you're like, "Oh, I didn't do it." And each time that happens, and it becomes a consistent thing for a lot of guys, but each time that happens, it's another program, another message to your subconscious mind saying you're not going to do it. You won't come through for yourself. And when that happens, you program your mind to think that you're unreliable. And that causes trust issues. Just like between two people, if one person is unreliable, the other person isn't going to trust them. And it's the same thing for yourself. So when you consistently tell yourself something and you don't come through, you are programming yourself to have less confidence, to be less disciplined, all the things that we want as men in order to step up and handle our business. You're actively taking that out at the knees. And so for me, I think a lot of it is the lack of confidence really in themselves.
I love that. And I'm going to give you a story.
Let's hear
So,
it.
something I learned in seventh grade was that exact story. I went up to that point being very shy, low confidence, in horrible situation I was going through in school and stuff. But moral of the story is, I reached a point in my life where, okay, I can't continue beating myself up and burying myself in this deep hole. It's leading down a really deep, dark path. So I need to start believing in myself and
Right.
showing who I really am to help myself build the confidence up. And this was the very first time I've ever had an experience like that. And it took a lot of just repetition of repeating the same thing about, you got this, you got this, you got this, you got this. And I'm not talking about like 4, 5, 6 times. I'm talking about 10,000, 15,000 times and weeks over
Yep.
and over and over again until it started coming out in spits and spats. But what ended up happening is it ended up snowballing. Kind of like you snowball downhill, you snowball uphill. You get one word out, things start connecting. You get a couple more words out, things start connecting. And before you know it, went from this super shy, introverted person to this extremely extroverted, wanting to be there for everybody, constantly having faith in myself, and knew that I could get through certain situations if things were thrown my way. Then fast forward all the way to when I was 20, where everyone knows that's where I fell back and basically broke my neck, but left in a horrible situation, and everyone wrote me off,
Right.
and they said, "You're screwed, Anthony. There's nothing we can do for you." I said, "Well, screw you. I'm going to do it myself."
Yep.
So took the power into myself and did it. And a lot of people hear that story, but they don't hear the story pre. So they always ask, like, how did you know you could do it? And I have to explain that previous story because that's when I
Sure.
built the confidence in myself. And then when I was 20, I did it again. When I started my own business with zero cash in my pocket, I did it again. When I went through COVID, I did it again. And each time it just becomes easier and easier, easier and easier. And I think that's something
Right.
a lot of people can relate to. You just got to do it once. And it's easy, as you said, as build the confidence of getting up early to go to the gym. That one little tiny thing can be life altering for every decision in your life.
It's a simple idea, right? But it takes work. And you're right. It's just like in the gym, the repetitions, the more you repeat it, the stronger you get, right? The more weight you're going to be able to lift, the more reps you're going to be able to do. Same thing. The more you tell yourself something and you come through for yourself, the stronger you're programming your subconscious mind to believe in yourself. You build that trust and then you build confidence. And they're partners, right? Confidence and trust, they go back together. And then you can include discipline in there as well, right? It's like a little trio that they all kind of bounce off each other and push you higher and higher. And you build that momentum by consistently being disciplined to the trust that you have in yourself, right? So boom, 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 and now your momentum is rolling forward, and now you have that confidence where you're like, shit, I can do just about anything right now. Let's go after the hard stuff, and that's really where I bring in the stress inoculation from Stoicism is let's attack the hard life, right? Let's go after that hard path because when I program myself by saying I'm going to do this, I'm going to drop 25 pounds, or I'm going to gain 5 pounds of lean mass, or whatever it might be, and then you do it and you make it hard, you take the hard path, your subconscious mind now is like, okay, we're doing hard things. Let's go. And you do it and you do it just like we said, you build that momentum. And now when life throws a curveball at you, like, well, your subconscious mind has a confidence, knows you have the ability to do it because you've done it in the past. So you run at it instead of being fearful and hiding in the corner. You step up broad chested and say, bring it on, let's go. And that is how we approach life, right? That's not just in the gym. That spills into every facet of life, from being a man in general on the street to being a husband to being a dad, a business owner. It permeates everywhere. And that's just the power of the mindset and programming it correctly by coming through for yourself. So it starts with a simple action. Could be getting up early, could be reading in the morning, could be doing meditating, whatever it might be. But it's the process of telling yourself that you're going to do something and then doing it and repeating it. It's simple programming.
Yeah, I just love that so much, and I'm just sitting here just like repeating so many scenarios in my head of so many times people have told me, just to like as an example, how do you go like business? We're in the gym. I see somebody and I run out to them and I just start talking, total stranger, and I'm like, I'm gonna get them in the gym. Watch, and I go and I
Yeah.
go start talking to them, introduce them to lifestyle, health, and fitness, and it pans out, and then I'm helping that person. But like my staff just looks at me and goes, and they're like, how did you just, I was like, I just do. Like, you got to have that confidence to step forward. Or we were talking a little pre show. My wife kind of gets mad at me sometimes because I jump head first without looking to see if there's water in the pool. It's like, well, we'll figure it out when I get there. Once I hit rock bottom, I'll be like, okay, this is where I am now. Let's dig out
Yep.
of it again. And I just love it. I just, whatever I got to do to stress myself out. Like, we went, let's open a gym with no money. Okay, go. Whatever, you'll figure it out later.
Right, right. You take the action and then you'll figure it out on the fly, right? That's that mentality of I can do this. I'll figure it out, but let's go. Let's charge, let's attack, let's take the hard path and you'll do it, right? Because you've programmed yourself already. You've told yourself like, hey, whatever happened to you in middle school, you're like, I can do this, I can do this. I'm confident, I got this, I can handle it. And it's continued because you've continued to do that. So your mindset now is you're like freaking Lou Ferrigno or somebody huge that's a big old beast like that you're not going to be stopped. There will be nothing that you won't be able to overcome because you programmed your mindset that way. And that's the ideal situation, right? That's what we're all working towards.
Yeah, and let me spin this a little bit and let's start moving on with this. I want to give you a scenario, and a lot of listeners are going to sit here and turn it off at this point, but that's okay because I want you to really, if you truly don't believe me, go ask 100 women. But I guarantee 60, 70, maybe 80% of them, but at least 60 out of that 100 is going to say, I want a strong, confident man. They want
Absolutely.
somebody, and they look at a guy and they want someone overall that can protect them, because it goes back thousands of years where the guy had to protect the woman while she was carrying the baby, while she had the child and had to take care of it. It was the man's responsibility to make sure that no other tribe came and tried to kill them, or that they were able to find food and go hunting and be able to fend off nature.
That's right.
That's rooted deep
Oh,
inside
that's
of
yeah.
us.
That's been in us for years. And I say that a man, especially a husband, has three main roles, right? He's supposed to protect, provide, and preside. First one is protect. That's physically, that's mentally, that's everything, right? Like you just mentioned. And it comes back from those times where we did have to get out there. You wake up in the morning, look around, make sure there's no threats around. If there is, you're the one to go out. It's not the woman's job, right? It's the man's job. We're built differently. Anatomically, we're different, right? Like we have different strengths. They have different strengths. We're not the same. We're complementary. And so because of that, one of our roles is to be the protector. It's I don't know why that's an issue or why that's a thing, but it seems like over the last however many years, that's been branded as being toxic, right? Like, oh, it's toxic. You don't want to be that big, strong man. Where in reality, I guarantee, like you said, if you go ask 100 women, I would say it's probably closer to 80 to 90% are gonna be like, yes, I want a strong man next to me. I don't want some brute a-hole, some jackass, right? But I want a strong, confident man that's gonna stand there and fulfill his roles with me. And one of them is to protect me. I want to be able to hold on to his arm, his big, strong arm while he walks, and I can feel protected and I can feel safe next to him versus him letting me lead the way, right? Like me dragging the man through the crowd. There's no woman that's really going to, well, there's not many women that are going to say they want that kind of weak male who's subservient, who is really, the beta version of what we're supposed to be.
Yeah, and I think just an easy way to think about it is, if you put yourself in a situation that you don't feel comfortable as a woman, you just say, hey, maybe it's crowds, maybe it's a dark corner, maybe it's out in nature by yourself. Who knows? Like, who do you want next to you? Or let's put an even simpler answer. Someone breaks into your home, right? That's a real fear. That happens all the time. You
It
hear a
does.
window break, who do you want to wake up next to? And that's what women are really thinking about. That's not what they might say out in public, but that's truly, because my wife and I have talked about this extensively. She's like, I want to know, like, that. It's like, she told me after we got married, I wanted to make sure that if someone broke into our house, you'd be there to respond.
Right.
And
My wife sleeps on the opposite side of the bed, right? The door is on one side of the room. I'm on that side of the bed. So if shit happens, yeah, that's my job to go run into the fire and protect. So that's you're right. That's the biggest thing, right? That's a great example is you hear the bump in the night, who's the one that's going downstairs to inspect it? It should be the man. That's his role. That's his responsibility to as a protector of the home. And we need more men to step up into that role and really embrace it instead of running from it scared. And I think a lot of guys are because they don't have the confidence in themselves.
I think this kind of steamrolls, right? So this is kind of how we can take this, and I think we talk about the problem, and then we come to the solution on the latter half. But this is where it's steamrolling. You don't have the confidence. You're not feeling your certain innate things that are about you as a male, like having that strength, that ability to protect. So now you're starting to get depressed. You don't know why you're depressed. So you start digging deeper and deeper down into your depression, and before you know it, your confidence is gone, and then you're sitting there trying to cling on, and you're just jumping into things that are abnormal. I'm just going to put fake quotes, like whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter. Sorry if it's not PC, but you're jumping into things that you just think are going to make you happier, because you're so confused, because you're fighting against yourself. Now your depression doubles, triples.
Right.
And I've
Right.
seen this over and over and over and over again. Now you start fighting with your wife because your confidence is going down. The fighting starts leading to a divorce. You get divorced and now you're depressed. How many men, when they get divorced, end up going out drinking all the time instead of
Yep.
taking a step and going in the right direction? Now you're drinking too much, your depression's going downhill more and more and more. Your belly's just getting bigger. And before you know it, you have a heart attack at the age of 60. And then all of a sudden, a doctor's like, hey, you're going to die. And then it takes at that point to be shit. I
Yeah.
got to take
Okay.
care of
Now,
myself. And
right.
then they start taking care of themselves. Then they start working out. Then they start building their confidence. Then they find another woman. Then they get married. And how many times do guys say, I am the happiest I've ever been? Is it the
Yep.
woman or is it the more confidence you have in yourself now?
Right. 100% confidence, right? Like it's the whole mindset shift from being a victim and, oh, woe is me and I can't do anything. And, oh, why has this happened to me? It's, again, this is where I would bring in some stoicism. It's, you can't control what's going to happen to you. You have no effect on that, right? It's going to happen. It's going to happen. But what you can control is how you react in your mental state when that thing is happening. So that's why we use that, right? Is I know that I'm going to react a certain way because I've made my life hard on purpose. I wake up early. I have 6 wins by 6 a.m. I do all this stuff on purpose so that when that does happen, I'm prepared, right? I've programmed myself to be like, I can do whatever it is that needs to be done in any given situation. There is nothing that will throw me off. It's a non-negotiable for me. And that goes with everything. That's how I view the world. That's how I view my roles and responsibilities. That's how I teach my kids, right? Like this is something that you guys need to know. So this is a non-negotiable for you going forward. And I'm trying to give them that wisdom earlier in their life so that they're not going down that spiral that you just described, right? So that they have the confidence, they start telling themselves they can do things, they program their mind, and as they grow older, they're that confident kid that's leading the way. I want to give them that heads up, that head start over everybody else so that they can dominate life and really create the life that they want to live from as early age as possible, instead of waiting until you're 60 and you've had a heart attack and you're 65 pounds overweight, your cholesterol's out the roof and you're just hating life. Why not start that earlier if we can, right? So that's again part of one of my roles and responsibilities as a dad is to teach my kids from my experience how to get ahead faster. And that's I take my roles and responsibilities very seriously, especially with my kids, because it's not only their lives that I'm affecting, but it's potential wives and then their kids as well. So this could potentially be a multi-generational thing where if I don't do it correctly, I'm not only screwing up my kids, but I'm screwing up their kids. And then that can go down the next generation and so on and so forth. So, like I said, this is serious business, but it's fun at the same time because when you do it right, you see them light up. They get so full of joy and they love being around dad, even though I don't think I'm that cool personally, but they do. So it's like, okay, cool. I do what I think is right and they're loving it. And it just kind of breeds more of that. It's just that consistency we talked about earlier. You build that snowball, you build that momentum, and life turns into what you want it to be. You're in control.
Yeah, and before we get to the let's take additional steps to make it better, is there anything else besides really the confidence point that I feel like we drilled home at this point that you see as a common pitfall?
Confidence. And then I think a lot of guys are selfish. They focus on they focus on how they feel and what they want and what that thing makes them do. They're focused on themselves more than their wives or their kids or their other relationships where they have a responsibility to do a certain role, fulfill a certain role. They focus on them. And really what I say is we need to put our purpose over our pleasure, right? It's not that instant gratification life that most people are looking for these days. You got to delay the gratification and do what you know you're supposed to do in order to get to that gratification, right? Like you put in the work now, work hard now, have fun later, kind of stuff like I tell my kids. But that is everything, right? You put your purpose ahead of your pleasure. And for me, by doing that, I get my pleasure, right? Because my purpose is to be a good dad, to be a good husband. And when I do that and I see the effects it has on my kids and it has on my wife, that's everything for me. So a good example is my youngest loves to go to the park and we're walking distance from the park here. And so at the end of the day, he comes running into my office every time and goes, Dad, let's go to the park. And before I had the mindset shift, I'd be like, I'm tired. I just want to sit on the couch. Let's watch a show or two, hang out. You can watch Peppa Pig or whatever it might be, and I'll just kind of sit there and veg out. But he'd be like, oh, you see him get disappointed, his head dropping. He's like, okay, and you'd walk out. But now it's anytime he comes and goes and asks to go to the park, I'm like, absolutely, grab your shoes, and he just goes and runs off and goes and gets his shoes, and then we're playing at the park, and it's maybe an hour max, 30 minutes to an hour, but for him, it's everything. And because of that, it's validation that I'm doing what's right. And to me, that's it, right? I want my kids to be happy. I wanted to show them how a dad should treat their kids. And by their reaction, I know I'm doing the right thing. So selfishness, long story short, selfishness and lack of confidence are probably the top two issues I see.
Where do you think the selfishness stems from?
It's a good question. I think a lot of it comes from childhood, either lacking something or getting too much of something. They didn't have a certain relationship that they really wanted or needed. And so now they focus on them and getting what they need because they didn't get it when they were a kid, or their parents gave them everything and they didn't have to worry about it. So it's like, yep, I want that. I want that. I want that. It, it's, and I also think that it's part of our culture has pushed that instant gratification. Give me the pleasure now. You got your tablets, you got your phones, you push the button, you get the dopamine hit, right? And that to me is a big problem. And that's why I think a lot of guys are selfish, because you can put on your phone, go on Instagram or go ESPN or go wherever, and you get your instant gratification by just looking at your screen. And that causes, I think that breeds that selfish mentality. Is like, I want to do this right now. I just pull up my phone and I can do it. We don't
Yeah,
have we don't have to delay the gratification anymore because of the technology that's around. And I think it's good, the technology, but it's also detrimental to a certain level as well.
yeah. Wait till AI goes full stream.
Yeah, that'll be good.
But all right, we're going to take a quick break from a word from our sponsor, Patrick, and then we'll kind of get back into the second half of this, which is how can we take steps to being a better dad, being a better for our society, whatever that may be. But guys, I do want to let you know, please check out our website, www.redefine-fitness.com. We offer two great nutritional services. We have our basic and our advanced. We all know how much the keto diet, the Atkins diet, the BS diet, the whatever you want to call it, that someone put diet at the end does not work. Like we were talked about in this show, it is all about habits. Habits. How do we change? How do we eat more food while getting healthier? Now, that is the key. Our basic program comes with monthly check-ins for those that just want to make sure they're doing things right. Our advanced program gives you 24/7 access to one of our coaches who is going to definitely help you out. You get our cool app. You get to scan foods on there. It is one of a kind and definitely something worth checking out. We are offering 10% off to all podcast listeners. Just reach out at staff@redefine-fitness.com. That is staff@redefine-fitness.com. And back to the show. So, Patrick, thank you for going through that awesome little ad with us. But let's talk about how we can kind of move forward. What's the next step? So we know the confidence, we know the selfishness. We talked about small victories. What's next?
Really, I think the starting block is for people to figure out what their purpose is. If you don't know how to do that, listen to your conscience. Sit in a room for a few minutes and just kind of be, right? And the more you do that, it sounds kind of weird and all spiritual and all that kind of stuff. I know. And I thought the same thing too before I actually did it. But weirdly enough, you know, it's not like some voice comes over the loudspeaker and is like, hey, this is what you're supposed to do. No, you just feel it, right? And you kind of know, okay, this feels right. And I go a lot off of field now, when previously I didn't. Before, I was a very logical linear thinker, like we were talking about earlier, but now I'm a lot more in tune with vibes, let's say, right? Different people's energies and that kind of thing. And if you sit there and you take the time and you really focus and concentrate on it, you will hear or feel what you're supposed to do. And I think once you start to get that, you definitely need to have the nutritional aspect and the training aspect to push yourself mentally, right? It's it's very important to do that, because when you push yourself mentally, especially, or push yourself physically in the gym, whatever exercises you do, whatever style of training you do, you're going to push yourself into that prefrontal cortex flow. Everybody talks about that flow state, right? The runner's high, the flow state. When you're there, you're at a higher level of consciousness, and that allows you to be open to more things and you feel more. And really, when you're doing that, it for me, especially after a workout, I feel like I'm on a direct connect with the powers that be or whatever it is, because that's when I get my downloads is what we call them, right? Like I have these ideas that come to me, and it all, when you sit back and analyze it, it's really about doing what's right. And all of us know what's right. And we all have that internal compass of the moral compass. Excuse me. And so really that's it, right? You find what you were supposed to do. And really for me, I think all of our purpose is to create the ideal individual, the person that we needed most growing up. That is who we are supposed to become. For me, it was a strong male leader. I have a father. He's still here. I love him. He's great. But there's certain things where he came up short. Nobody's perfect, right? But for me, I have now become that man that he wasn't. And that is our purpose, right? Become the source of what you seek, what you needed as a kid. Embody those traits. Be that guy, be that lady, and then give that person to the world. So my world is my family, right? I need to be a strong male leader who shows his kids love, who tells them he's proud of them, because I didn't get that. And so now that I'm doing that, you feel it. I'm doing what's right. The kids are excited. They're happy. You see the joy. It's it's about aligning your thoughts and actions with that purpose, right? And by doing that, and that purpose is to create that ideal individual. So you work every day, you set up your habits every day to move closer to that ideal individual. And really it's that momentum. You start to build those habits, you start to build that momentum, and then you're on the track to chasing down that ideal individual. He's way out there in the future, but each day you get one step closer, you get 1% closer. And for me, my ultimate goal is when I die is to see that guy, that ideal individual, that guy I've been chasing, and have him be like, hey, guess what, bud? You caught me. We're twins. And once that happens, I know that I did it, right? That means I lived how I was supposed to. I became the source of what I seek, and I became that ideal individual. And really that's how I coach, right? I tell my guys, whatever you need, because everybody has a slightly different definition of that, right? Somebody maybe didn't have a dad, so they just need to be a present father and as good as they can be. It's different for everybody, but once you align your thoughts and actions and habits with that ideal individual, and you don't stop and you work towards that guy every day, that's the best thing you can do. And you're going to feel that fulfillment. You're going to make that progress that you want. You're going to see the gains in the gym, but more so, you're going to see that mental strength that you're building. And like we talked about earlier, once you feel that and you have that mental strength, life becomes malleable. You're able to create the life that you want. And that's really it in a nutshell.
I want to talk about the purpose a little bit because
Sure.
I agree with you, and I feel like everyone does have their own purpose. And I kind of liked what you said. You threw it in there. It starts off with what you felt like your purpose was when you were young, and that really resonated with me because I had a purpose when I was young. When I was going through the whole shyness stage and everything, I always knew what I wanted to be, and that just felt impossible. Because just to give an example of kind of an extreme difference is my purpose, I felt at a very young age was, I go by a quote because I think it's easier to use the quote than it is to explain it, which is, they say you die twice, once when you get buried into the earth, and the second, last time somebody mentions your name. I want to live forever. And
Right.
that's always been my purpose, is I want to make sure I leave such a mark on this world in a positive way that it's always around and always done something. And I lost sight of that between 7th grade and the time I was 25. I got all caught up in day-to-day social BS.
Life.
And
Yeah.
it took having a quarter-life crisis, laying on the floor, staring at a ceiling fan for 3.5 hours to be like, fuck, what am I doing? And then all of a sudden that came rushing back to me. And I said, I need to line up with this. This is what I thought back when I was like 7 years old. Anthony, you got to do it. And you're 25 years now behind because you decided that other little stupid issues were more important. So I picked myself up and said, screw it, let's open a gym. So
That's awesome.
the little things like that. Now, it could be, it doesn't have to be that extreme. Like you said, it could just be a better father. And a lot of people lose sight
Right.
of that. Just be a better father. It's great. Be better to your spouse. You don't want to have kids, you know, be the best husband and supportive husband you can be for your
Exactly right.
significant other. That it goes a long way. And it's tough. I mean, I'm newly married, but my wife and I have known each other for a decade at this point. So it's, you're seeing that we have differences. We fight, yeah, but I step away from the conversation and I'm sitting there and I'm all pissed off, like, no, I'm right, blah, 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 BS, BS, BS. And then I just stop and think, I'm like, this isn't worth not being there with next to her. And I always cave first because she just like, I'm like, no, like,
And but that's what you're supposed to do. That's what a good husband does, because at the end of the day, your job is to serve her, right? And what does it do to win the argument? To make you feel good? Hey, I won this one. But again, that's where we get selfish, right? We put our ego ahead of really our purpose. And I want to feel good because I won that argument and I told her. And it's like, well, the detrimental effects that that's going to have for your relationship definitely definitely outweigh that feeling that you get of winning, right? So it's like I've been there too, you know. And at the end of the day, my job is to serve. Your job is to serve your wife, right? And to be that support system, to be that strong man for her, that's protecting and providing and presiding, and not being a negative force, not being detrimental, or taking her out or making her feel like shit or whatever it might be. So you have the right approach to it, right? Like, you remove yourself for a minute, collect yourself, and be like, hey, you know what? I screwed up. Even if you didn't, I'm sorry.
I will
I
be
love
honest,
you. This is
I am the dive headfirst person, like I mentioned earlier. It's usually
right.
my fault. And it takes, it's just so angry in the beginning that it's just like, ah. And then after like a couple days, I'm like, wow, shit, I really did screw that one up. So we just think it's a guy thing. And you know what? My
It
wife
is.
is an amazing person. And she does like, her and I can say, but just like, this isn't worth it. So it's important to be there for each other. And like you said, just, you have to serve her and make her comfortable and be there for her because she's the one ultimately, guys. She's got to give childbirth. She's got
Right.
9 months of hell, then give birth, and
Well, in the worst case situation, she's gonna definitely have more options if shit goes south than you do, right? So I mean, like, you were lucky that she picked you, just like I was lucky that my wife picked me. But it's also not luck, right? It's because you fit a certain role that she felt comfortable with, and you want to build upon that, right? You don't want to take that foundation out. You want to build that nice house on top of it instead of, let's build a basement. No, you don't want to go down. You want to go up together, right? So that's it, right? Like, our whole goal should be to be the best version of ourselves. And ourself is that a husband, is that a father, a business owner, a leader, whatever it might be. You just want to be the best that you can, and we should be working towards that every day. 1% better, 1% closer to that ideal individual every day.
can you give us a specific example of someone you've worked with that made a huge improvement with working with you, or something, maybe a realization they had, just so we can kind of relate a little more besides just us?
Yeah, so yeah, my guy Dave. So he started following me, and I do all my posting on Instagram. So that's where I kind of preach and teach and do all that stuff. But he started following me. He was following me for probably 6 months before we started interacting. And he ended up joining the team. And he was telling me how a lot of times he didn't really feel up to doing stuff with his kids. He hadn't gone to the park with them in a year. He hadn't done like basic things that most dads are like, yeah, this is fine. This is part of the job. This is what I want to do. And he was watching me with my kids because we go do stuff all the time. And he goes, you know what, man, I think I'm going to try something different. I'm like, different's good. Go for it. And next thing you know, I get a text from him or a DM from him with a video of him. And this was in the winter, walking with his kids. He's got 3 or 4 kids and their dog. And the kids are laughing, running and playing, and they're going for a walk. It's something simple as that, where you could tell by the kids' reactions that they were so excited that dad had re-engaged. And it's something as simple as that. But since that point forward, have seen a completely different guy. Dave now has stepped up and he's a better husband. He sent me a text the other day where his wife said, I am so proud that I actually picked you as my husband. I'm proud that you are the father of my kids. And to me, that almost made me cry, like, I'm
That
like,
must make
holy,
me cry. I don't even know him.
yeah, I'm like, hold on. But that to me is what it's all about. It's the re-engagement, and especially with the kids, right? Because kids they're harmless. They're completely at the beck and will of the parents. And if the parents don't give two shits, which plenty of parents don't, the kids get fucked. And it's disgusting. It's sad. They didn't ask to be born. So it's our responsibility to give them the best quality life possible. And to see somebody going from a lazy, selfish dad who'd rather sit on the couch like I was there for a while to a fully engaged dad who is putting his kids ahead of his self, right? His purpose of being a good dad ahead of his pleasure. It to me, like I said, it almost made me cry. Like the kids were so happy, and he turned the camera to himself, and he had a smile on his face. And I'm like, this is why I do this, right? This is why I'm trying to help people, because you could see the joy on the kids' faces. You could see the joy on his face, and even the dog. Really, like it was like they hadn't been out together in almost a year, and now they're doing something simple as a 10-minute walk. But that was 6 months ago, and now they're going out all the time. He's got daily dates with each one of his kids. They go do something different, once or twice a week. And you can really see that he is a completely different father and husband just because he's put himself in the back seat, right? He's put his purpose as driver, and that's what's pushing him to do what he's doing. And now he's taking on a third job. I think he's trying to retire his wife. Um, it's really a completely different man. And I've been working with him he's been following me for a while, 6 months, so about 3-ish months, almost 3 months. So he started taking just what I was posting out and starting to implement it. And now, 3 months ago when he joined, he went full force into it. And that's when we've seen the huge change from very, very selfish. Every now and then he'd do something for his wife to he's got a weekly date with his wife, his kids, they're going out all the time. And he's really just killing it and becoming that elite version of himself. It's awesome to see.
I
It's
love that. That especially about his wife. That got me.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, "Oh, hold on, I need some water." Like, that's awesome, right? Because I think as guys, we all wanna hear that our wives are proud of us, right? They're proud that we are their husband, that we are the father, that
Can I just jump in real quick?
absolutely.
I want to stop you right there because that is huge. You just said we want to hear from our wives how proud of them they are that they picked us. But when's the last time you told your wife that? When's the last time someone told their significant other, I am so happy I married you? Especially people that married
Right.
25, 30 years. I was talking to my parents today on the phone, and they always laugh because they've been married 37 years, right?
Okay.
And they go out and they said, we were out last night, and this couple stopped us and goes, wow, you guys really love each other. My mom's like, thanks. Like, yeah, you kissed each other in public. And it's just like, yeah, he's my husband. And my
Right.
parents like show love like to each other 37 years later, still married. And I was telling him, I was like, no, like I trained and work with a lot of people your age. I know a lot of people in that age. They don't even say hi to each other when they walk in the
Right.
same
They
room.
just pass by each other like ships in
Yeah.
the night, right?
Yet alone hug or kiss each other. I see my wife, I get in trouble. I see her walking. She works with me, so when she walks into the gym, sometimes when I'm training, I run over and give her a kiss in the middle of a session. I shouldn't do that because it's probably not professional. She gives me a dirty look, but I just can't help it. Like I
Yeah.
love her as a human being, the bottom of my heart. And I feel like we lose sight of that as we get older because, like you said, we get selfish. We want
Right.
everything me, 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 me. I want that new car. I'm having a midlife crisis. I need all of this for me, 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 me.
Right.
And that kind of you lose sight of the person who was there with you from day
Well,
one.
they become roommates, right? Like you live parallel lives, and it's because like you said, the selfishness, right? Like it's the guys like midlife crisis is a great example. Oh god, I'm getting old, I'm old, blah blah blah. Now what about me? And you're it's not about you. It's never about you. It's always about them and what you're supposed to do for them, right? So if you're not showing your wife love, if you're not writing her little love notes on a yellow sticky, or buying her flowers, or doing the dishes, helping clean the kitchen, whatever, making dinner some nights, then you're not doing your job as a husband, because she's not there to serve you all of the time, right? It's a partnership. And if you're dropping the ball, excuse me, if you're dropping the ball there, I know you're dropping the ball in other parts of that relationship as well. You're probably not showing affection. And
When's the last
I'll
time
give
you had sex with each other?
right. And that's a huge problem for a lot of guys, right? Is maybe once a month, a couple times a year.
I walked into a
That shit's
conversation 10
crazy
years
to
ago. I'm
me.
going to leave
Like,
out time and place because I just don't want people listening to understand. But there was 4 middle-aged women talking, and I wanted to turn around. I wanted to throw up. They were talking about the last time they slept with their husbands and bragging about who went the longest. One said,
oh
"Oh,
wow.
it's been 6 months." The other one was like, "Oh my God, I've done 3 years." The other one's like, "Ha, 10 years since the last time." They're like bragging about it. Needless to say, 2 out of the
Wow.
4 of them are now divorced 6 years later. Like,
Yeah,
my
it's
husband
that.
was cheating on me. Well, you didn't show him love or affection for 10 years.
Yeah,
That's a two-way
that's
road. And this
that.
goes from men to women. Like, you don't show your wife love and affection, you're not there for them. Like, red flag.
Yeah, no, huge red flag, definitely. And excuse me, it's, I think a lot of times it's when the guy abdicates some of his roles or his responsibilities, and the wife has to step in and take on that work as well as everything that she's already doing. It breeds resentment. She's going to start to resent you because you're not pulling your weight. She's going to start to resent you because you're not doing what you said you were going to do. And the last thing when she's resenting you is, what is she going to want to do? She's going to want to get naked with you? No, she's not. She's gonna fuck off, right? Like, I got to work. For me, it'd be like my wife having a 4th kid. Now I have another kid that I have to take care of instead of a partner who's supposed to help me create this life that we dreamed of having. Now I got 4 kids. Fuck out of here. You're not getting shit. Like, you don't deserve it, man. You haven't earned it. You haven't put in work. You haven't held up your end of the deal. Why would she? Why should she? She shouldn't.
I
You're
had a
unworthy at the
conversation with one of my, not a client. I had a relationship with somebody on the outside, and he tells me that his wife got fat and ugly. And I'm looking at him. I'm just thinking in my head. I didn't say it. Maybe I don't know if I should or shouldn't. Maybe it wasn't time and place. Like, you haven't been to a gym in like 20 years. Don't sit here, like you said, build the
right,
confidence for yourself and complain that your wife gained 30, 40 pounds. Meanwhile, you got a beer belly that I feel like I could take a pin and pop it. So just
right, exactly.
take care of yourself. Like, I work out all the time. And I tell my wife, like, I work out for 2 reasons. I work out one all the time because I got to keep the pain away from my neck. And the second reason is that I want to make sure I am the most attractive husband you ever thought you could have. So when we go out in public,
Right,
people see you with me and they're like, wow, like that girl's done it right. And like, I want to do that for her. I want girls to be jealous of
right.
her. I don't care
Yeah,
about myself. I don't care how I look. I don't give a shit. I'm not looking in mirrors staring at my abs ever. I want my wife to know that I'm going to work out for her and that she's going to have somebody that's there for her.
right.
Huge.
Exactly right. No, and that's part of serving her, right? Is you're becoming the best version of you, in this case physically, for her. And that's part of your role, man. And that's, you're nailing it right on the head by doing that. And I think if more guys would realize that a lot of the problems in relationships, I would venture a guess to say most of the problems start with us, right? We are we are at fault for quite a few, or a high percentage of the issues in the relationship, for one
Agreed.
reason or another. Selfishness, lack of confidence, being an asshole, whatever it might be. So I think if we turn and look at ourselves, if there's a problem in the relationship and we want to blame our wives, if we turn and look at ourselves, what can we do to make myself better? How can I be a better version of myself for her? I guarantee you, you're going to fix most of your problems, because it all starts with self, right? When you develop yourself, you become the most elite version of yourself. You're a better individual to everybody. So you're going to serve better. You're going to treat people better. You're going to communicate better. You're going to be a better man and a husband and a father and a lover and all that good stuff. You're going to be better because you've worked on yourself. And there's a reason why airlines, when the flight attendant's doing the security check, they tell you to put the mask on yourself first before you help somebody else. right? And there's the other adage where you can't pour from an empty cup. You can't serve somebody if you haven't served yourself yet. And that's why I have my morning routine where I get up at 3 and I have from 3 to 6 before my kids get up, before I have to be dad again. And I use that time to work on myself, to make myself better for my whole family, for everybody, right? Because that to me is how I can really just be the best, right? I want to be the best at everything I do for them so that they can have the experiences, the memories, the everything to the highest level instead of just an average kind of life. And honestly, I don't want average. I'm the furthest thing from it. I want to be a rare motherfucker who has a rare life, who does the rare things. And that's my goal in life, is to be that guy that people are like, damn, I wish I could do that. And the thing is, I'm not doing anything special, right? Anybody can do it. You just got to take that first step.
I couldn't agree more. I think we're both on the same page. I think this is a great place to ask you the final two questions that I ask everyone. First one, if you were to leave a take-home message in 1 or 2 sentences, what would that be?
A take-home message: put your purpose ahead of your pleasure.
Put your purpose ahead of your pleasure. I love it. And then the second one, how can people find you, get a hold of you? Let us know.
Instagram. I'm on Instagram as the Level Up Dad. So at the Level Up Dad, and then email as well. It's the levelupdad@gmail.com.
Nice and easy. Patrick, thank you for coming on, and thank you guys for listening on this week's episode of Health and Fitness Redefined. Please don't subscribe to this show, and we hope to see you soon. And remember, fitness is medicine. Until next time. For us, we know what it's like to feel unhealthy, depressed, and downright defeated. We want to show others there is a right way, and through fitness, you can do anything you set your mind to. Fitness can give you that motivation, confidence, energy you need to bridge that mental gap and prevent you from missing important life events. We understand it's about feeling better, living longer, and being good examples for our kids. We understand this because we live it. And for us, that's the redefined difference.